being bold and speaking boldly doesn't mean that you're not afraid or anxious or, concerned or whatever word you want to use.
Yeah.
It just means that you believe that God is able.
Welcome to Living Out 180, a podcast from 180 Church where we talk about faith, leadership, and everyday life. We'd like to welcome you to the podcast. I'm your host, Kendall Terry, and we are back with my co-host, Brad Bryant.
Hello, podcast people.
The more that we do that, though, Kelsey's going to get a co-host podcast title. She's got to be careful.
Understand. We don't want any title mongers.
That's right.
Around here.
And I will tell you, if you did not listen to the podcast last week,
it's really good.
You need to go and listen to it because it was wonderful. And I think Kelsey just did a phenomenal job, dropped some amazing truth.
Yeah, she did it. She did a really good job. If I wasn't her father, I would be worried, but I could still, take authority if I have to, so I don't have to worry about my job.
Well, I thought she did a great job. And, I'm not her dad, but I had a lot of pride in that she was also in my youth group back in the day. And so it's been really cool watching her mature into who God's making her into and just continuing to see that growth. And, everybody doesn't get to know 15-year-old Kelsey.
Correct.
And so they might not know just how her journey's gone and who she is and what God has just built in her.
Sure.
It's been phenomenal. It's been cool to just be a part of it. I don't take that lightly to say that I've been a part of that.
Come on.
But today we are moving into a discussion on a message you did a couple weeks ago of live for Jesus today. Today. That today is important.
Yes.
Not just live for Jesus.
Today.
But we want to do it today. And I think that's tough, because I think although most of us that would call ourselves Christian would say, yeah, I'm living for Jesus today. And then maybe ask that question of, well, what have you done today? Right.
Yeah. Can you show your work?
Yeah.
That's been one of my favorite phrases here recently.
Yeah.
Show your work. Tell me why you think that, all of those things. And I'm with you. That's it.
And you talked about Hebrews 3:13, encourage one another daily as long as long as it is called today.
Yes.
So that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness.
Right. What we want to do, or what I wanted to do, was bring an urgency. And that's what I thought about when I read that. Encourage one another. There's that daily, as long as it's called today. Here's these words that are coming up, kind of speaking to the urgency of it. And that's what I want people to see in their everyday walk with Christ. We have urgency in a lot of different areas, but sometimes in our walk with Jesus, we just don't.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know, that's the word. It just doesn't seem as important. It's almost like, well, I made a decision and that was it. Conversation I have with people regularly is one of the questions I've started asking is, how's your relationship? And I will always compare it to like a marriage. If I were to ask you how your marriage is, what would your answer be? And how would you define that? Do you have a scoreboard that shows you where that is? So what about your relationship with God? Do you have anything to manage that? Can you measure it? What I'm finding is people don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not an urgency. How's your relationship with God? Good. Here we go. Show me your work.
Yeah.
What makes you say that? Is it because your prayers get answered? Is it because you got a new job? Is it because you got a raise? Is it because the car hadn't broken down?
Right.
Kids aren't acting stupid this week? Show me how your relationship with God is. And, some people will say, well, and you and I were just speaking before we turned on the microphones. A young man that I've watched his journey for almost 15 years. And just recently, he's really honestly fallen in love with Jesus. And he is striving daily, there's the word, daily, to be a better husband and to be a better father. And he's taking chances with what his family is going to think about him by leading them as some. And that's it. That's the idea about this crazy urgency. And I think it's important that the last part of it says, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. That's a real risk.
Yeah.
Is that hardening. And so that's the idea of this, of the message. It wasn't a series, it was just a standalone, is to bring a little bit of urgency. The way I do messages, I'm talking too much, but the way I do messages is I want to present a problem and then I want to help people solve it.
Yeah.
If I can present a problem that they all kind of connect with, then they want to know what the answer to that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that this thing happened whenever Christ died and rose again, and you can see this when you look at Acts, of talking about what this thing really meant of serving God and loving God, turned from all of the law to relationship.
Right.
And it's been 2,000 years or so since that. And I think humans are still wrestling with this thing, because if my relationship with God is just based on law, then it's a lot cleaner. Now, the law also showed that I couldn't measure up, and really, in essence, meant that I would always have a separation between me and God.
Right.
Because you can't do all the things that were in the law. But it's a lot easier to point out what I can do and what I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
At the point that Christ, through dying on the cross, through raising from the dead, through all the things that happened there, turning this from law to relationship, made it a very muddy process.
Yes.
Because if we're talking about, you'd brought up relationships with your spouse. If you ask me that question of how's my relationship with my spouse right now? And I said, good. And you said, well, what's good about it? I could tell you.
There's measurables.
Because we interact every day. You know, we're going to talk on the phone. If we're not together, we're going to be communicating. We're going to be texting. We're going to be interacting.
Still connected.
We're going to be connected. And, you know, so I can say, well, this is going on, or that's going on, or this is what's good, or this is what we're working on right now, or struggling with, or what. And I can give you specifics. And then you take that to that question that you just asked about, well, what's your relationship with God like? And for a lot of people, that they haven't thought about that relationship with God since maybe Sunday morning, or you know, it's not been.
Or whenever their last need was.
Yeah, whenever the problems of life happened, and so to say, like, are we living for Jesus today? That's not saying, you know, when the next problem happens. It's not saying when the next crisis happens. It's not saying when the next promotion comes along. It's not, but it's what am I doing to figure this thing called relationship with Christ? Because that was the whole intent of salvation. That was the whole intent of Christ coming to earth and living and dying and raising from the dead and ascending back to heaven. The whole intent. And there was so much imagery in there that, you know, that people kind of read and see, but the whole thing was to take away the divide, to take away the separation, and say, you have access now. What are you now going to do with that access?
But it's also Emmanuel, God with us.
Yes.
It's the same thing what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so when we look at, well, we have access to God, but the problem is sometimes when we have that access, what happens is we abuse that access, right? How many people listening have bought access to a gym and they go for the first couple of weeks, we'll even be generous and say first couple of weeks, and then they still have the access, but they never show up anymore.
That's a little rude.
And if you ask them,
you know, I don't know why you would go there, but go ahead.
And if you ask
finish
them
your thought.
if you ask them about, well, you know, are you working out? Do you have a membership? Yeah, I've got a membership to so-and-so fitness center or whatever.
Probably even got a card.
Yeah, they could show you their card. And it's like, well, when's the last time you went?
Yeah.
And that's the rude part now, right? Of like, well, I haven't been in a long time. That's the same way with our relationship with Christ. There's a lot of people that they have the membership. They've gone through that initial process. But then to say, well, what are you doing today?
Yeah.
And if you're not doing things to make that something today, then that's where I think the last part of Hebrews 3:13, that's why it's so important, is that so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Because when you look at someone that you are like, man, I thought they were really living for God, and then they have some big failure, some big issue, some big whatever, they step away from belief in God. That didn't just happen overnight because one bad thing happened. Typically, It was they started the process and then never did anything to actually work on the relationship with Christ.
And so we talked about, so why is it urgent? That's one of the questions we kind of ask ourselves is, why is it urgent? And, it's because we're living in the last days.
Yes.
At the end of all of it, the reason it's urgent is because we're living in the last days. Now, I don't know if that means Jesus is coming back tomorrow, but I know that this life is going so quickly. Mm-hmm. I'm going to meet Jesus.
Yeah.
And it may be soon, it may be, I don't know, but here's what I do know. I'm 54 years old. I've already lived over half my life.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fast.
Yeah.
And it's speeding up. And so I know we're living in the last days. And we can go to Scripture, and that's what we did is we talked about specifically, 3 realities to show we're in the last days. And we won't go over the Scriptures, but the 3 statements were people will grow colder, and there's Scripture to back it up. If anybody wants to argue, we can talk about it, but if they knew what we've been through over the last, few months, they know. Truth will be twisted.
Yeah.
Again, an entire podcast we can do on that. And faith will be tested.
Oh, yeah.
All of this sounds like a lot, and it is.
Yeah.
But I don't want people, that's the whole point of the urgency and living for Jesus, is so we don't have to worry about that stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't worry about what the world's going to look like or what the devil's doing. I've never been a doom and gloom person. I'm a follower of Jesus, and as long as I follow Jesus, I don't have to worry. That's actually one of the things that he said. Don't do it. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. And so I think as we kind of set the stage of here's what needs to happen. You need to have some urgency about your relationship with Christ. Here's why. There's a time coming, whether Jesus comes back very, very soon or I go to see him. There's a time coming. And so there needs to be an urgency. And we could even go into the things that I think are important, which is it's not about me.
Right.
I'm going to heaven.
Yeah, we've talked about that multiple times.
I'm going to heaven, but what about the people that are watching me, following me? What about family? I have grandkids now. I've got 3 grandkids. They're going to tell a story about me. Mm-hmm. And what is that going to be, and how's that going to influence their life? All of this, I believe, culminates into we need to live for Jesus. And we can go into detail on those truths if you like, but we got to live for Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and I think the powerful thing about what you just said of, like, I'm going to make it to heaven, that confidence of what you're saying is because of what your relationship with Christ is like every day. Yep. What you are doing today. Mm-hmm. And we say living for Jesus. That's not saying you're out on a street corner, you're out, and that some people that may be part of their stuff, but it's not saying, well, I've witnessed to this many people, or it's what you're doing in your relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. And so because you know what you're doing in your relationship with Christ, you can confidently say that. And when you were going through those, I was also thinking about, if we looked at, I bet, I don't have the data here, if we looked at the steps that happen that go from someone being happily married to being divorced. Oh. In reality, it's the 3 things that you just said.
That's really good. Yes.
We allow the relationship to grow cold through, maybe that's just, we stop spending time together, we stop investing in one another, we stop, just simply saying, how was your day? We allow that to grow cold. Yep. Then what happens? Truth gets twisted.
Sure. I start seeing it like it's not.
Right. And then finally, what ends it typically is faith is tested. So then something now has happened on average that is going to now test the bounds of this relationship. And since I've not invested in it, then it's no longer there. And we find ourselves then at the end of something that we thought would never end. And it's because we didn't put any time and energy into actually making this thing thrive and survive.
And we can talk about the same thing with marriage relationship and your relationship with Christ. I really believe that one of the key things, indicators that you're going the wrong direction, is when it becomes needs-based or transaction relationship. And we can look at that on both sides. If we're talking about, my relationship with Tammy, if it's just a need, here's what I need from you.
Yep.
I don't really care if I'm around you or not, but here's what I need from you. Or the transactional, I'll do this if you will do that. And we could dive into that for hours about how that's an indicator. When our relationship with Christ is similar, I don't really want to spend time with him. I just need some stuff from him. I need his peace. I need his joy. I need those things. But what we don't understand is we can have those through the relationship because he wants some things from us. It's a one-sided relationship.
Yeah.
He doesn't need anything from us, but he wants things from us. And a lot of those things are companionship and relationship. And, when you've got little bitty kids, they need everything from you. They need you to survive. When they become teenagers, they don't really need you as much, but as a parent, you want them to want to be with you more than they really need you.
Yeah.
And instead of just coming and asking for gas money, I'd really like for you to come and say, "Hey, do you want to go get something to eat?
Yeah. Hey,
would you like to go do this activity with me?" And if we can see that as parents and as husbands and wives, surely we can. It's not a reach,
right,
to say it's the same thing in our relationship with God. Do you want to go to his house? Do you want to sit in the quiet and just see if he has anything to say to you?
Yeah.
Do you want to, the teenager, do you want to sit on the phone way back in the day when they still had cords on the wall and just listen to each other breathe?
Right.
Do we want to do that with God, or do we just, I think life's good right now, I'll check in later?
Right.
Golly, hey,
I want you to show
scary.
up when something happens tragically. And then when that happens, I want you to step in and immediately solve it. As if you listen to last week's podcast, many times God shows up to walk through it with you. That's not him just showing up to solve it. And it's through that relationship, though, that gives you that confidence when times get tough, because we act like, even though the Word of God is very descriptive of how he describes, you could say Satan, the devil, the enemy, the whatever term you want to use to describe the anti of Christ, we read scriptures like he'll deceive even the elect. And we go, well, that's not, there's no, I don't know what that says about us to say, well, that's no fear here. I don't know. That's saying we're not the elect, I guess. I don't know. But we act like that we can, that deception won't happen to us. Well, if you're on guard, if you're paying attention, if you're building that relationship, then it's less likely to happen to you. But if you're not investing, then don't be surprised if you get caught down the road going, "Oh, I am out here by myself.
Right.
I am alone." And I think that's the thing. I think that destroys a ton of marriages. And I know that, if you take finances off the table, number two, I think would be just that they allow the relationship to dissolve because they're not investing in it. And I think that same principle goes, we talk about leadership, we talk about discipleship on the podcast. I think that same thing happens in our jobs. That same thing happens in so many other relationships in our life. We live in a world right now where it's almost a common thing for a lot of adults that work jobs to give the very minimum to that job.
Yep.
And then expect the maximum reward. They expect the promotion. They expect the better pay. They expect the bigger, the bigger, better benefit, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but you show up every day and you do the minimum to say that you work there, instead of actually coming in to say, I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to give it something of value and see what can be produced there. Well, if you come in and you give minimum to any relationship, you rarely get a maximum benefit.
I remember in manufacturing 100 years ago, I wanted to be a supervisor. And so I started trying to be a supervisor, which means I was applying for it and doing all that. And I had a really cool manager that saw me as a 24-year-old kid. And he said, "You've applied 4 times to be a supervisor at 24. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Why would I want you to be my supervisor?" And I just kind of stared at him for a second. Again, I didn't have a good answer. Yeah. I just kind of looked at him like, because I'm the best, whatever. And he told me, he said, you've got to be you've got to be a great employee before I'll allow you to be a good supervisor. And so I kind of changed my methods. I was like, oh, so, and again, I'm making no bones about it. I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. I had no business being a supervisor. And so I started investing a little bit more, learning different jobs, working a little bit harder. I continued to apply. It was the 8th time that I applied for a supervisor that I got it at 26 years old. I still don't think I was ready. But here's what I learned through that is after becoming a supervisor, I stopped pursuing promotion and I started just trying to be better. And what I found personally was as I became better at my craft or better at my job, those opportunities became more available. And I didn't even have to look for them. And if we can grasp this in the kingdom of God and in work and at home, if we can grasp this, I think we will see our lives be richer and better. And I don't mean financially richer. I just mean a richer life and financially better because we are just simply pursuing to be better ourselves. I believe that I become more attractive to my wife and she becomes more attractive to me when I focus on being better myself and also being better for her. Yeah. It's the same, and I believe it's the same in our relationship with Christ. We're going to talk about some different things we can do. Not one of these makes us, in my opinion, not one of these makes us more attractive to the world. Yeah. I want to make it very clear. Right. Nothing we're going to talk about today makes the world look at you. This is not a self-help. Right. This wasn't a self-help message. This is not going to be a self-help podcast. This was about your relationship with Christ. Yeah. Straight up. Yeah. That we can use some parallels when it comes to our marriage. We can use some parallels when it comes to work. But when we dig into the how do we live for Jesus today, it's about living for Jesus today. Right. And it may even have the opposite effect at work. Right.
It depends on how you live.
Depends on where you work and who it is.
That's right. And so I think we can jump right into that. Of the first thing, when we say we're living for Jesus today, you gave 4 challenges in this discussion. And the first one being speak boldly. Yeah. And you were using 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 and in all of these. But when you're saying speak boldly, it's saying declare Christ even when, as you said, it could cost you something here, even when it costs you, even when that maybe people look at you and go, I don't know about you.
Normal talk in your house is probably not normal talk at work.
It's not. Yeah.
That's what I think that's one of the things that I probably noticed as much as anything else growing up in a Christian home, in a home that my parents weren't pastors like yours were, but they were all in the same. And the language we used and the things we talked about, I realized early on, not everybody did that. Not everybody talks this way. Not everybody says, if you'll trust God, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Not everybody says you should turn the other cheek. Not everybody says all of these things, but the beauty of 1 Thessalonians 2 that I liked about it was the phrase right in the middle. I think it's in chapter 2, verse 2. It says, but with the help of our God.
Yeah.
That's where the answer is. God is where it comes from. Acts 1:8. You'll receive power after the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you're going to speak boldly.
Right.
That's the whole concept of speaking boldly, is that the Holy Spirit comes through you. And the reason, the how-to is with the help of our God. The reason is because people are looking for something to follow.
Right.
That's it. People are looking for something to follow.
Well, and typically they're looking for something to follow that actually has substance.
Show me some courage.
Yeah, show me something that is worth believing in.
Mm-hmm.
You say you believe in God. You say you believe in Christ. You say, so how then is your life different? How do you see the same thing that everybody else sees?
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, hey, God's got this.
Yeah.
And everybody else is going, I don't know what you're looking at,
mm-hmm.
but I'm not looking at something that says God's got this. I'm looking at something that's not working out the way that I planned it to work out. And I'm looking at something that, I'm looking at maybe a bank account that the money isn't in the account.
Right.
Or that we've already gone into the red on the account, and we still got, 4 days before the next paycheck.
Yep.
God's got this.
More month than money.
Yeah. And it's exactly that you said. I grew up in a house that I'm grateful for as an adult because of that kind of talk of, hey, God is going to make a way where there doesn't seem to be a way. It's okay.
Come on, Jesus.
And that's not something that everybody hears every day. That's not something that everybody sees.
Right.
And, I try to then do that same thing for my kids when we're talking about stuff. The other day in the car, we get in the car. My daughter is now driving a vehicle to work, to school, and it's to work for me, but it's school for her. And we get in.
Wait, which child?
Elena. Yeah.
She's doing what?
Yeah. It's exciting.
We might need to take a minute.
Right.
Wait, what?
It's fun now. Yeah, she's passed that test, and we have been driving for a couple weeks now.
Did you talk to us about Kelsey?
I don't know that I mentioned this. And,
go ahead.
It's
Sorry.
exciting.
Give me a second.
And we got in the car the other day, and there was a couple, like, she almost fell just trying to get into the car. It was one of those, like, slipped as you were stepping in, and and then when she started the car, she, like, whatever direction she was supposed to put the car in, it was like she put the car in the other direction first. And I stopped. I looked at her. I said, "You having a bad day?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was funny because for most people, when you ask that question, it's like, it's fine. Right. And she looked right back at me. She goes, "Kinda, Dad."
That's great.
And just the honesty in that moment. And, she was like, this and that. There was already 2 or 3 things. The morning had just started, already 2 or 3 things on the list. And of course, all the things that I had witnessed in the last couple of seconds. And in that moment, I stopped. I said, hey, okay. God is able to make this day okay. Yeah. We don't have to stay right here. We don't have to live right here.
Right.
And to realize that everybody doesn't have that.
No,
everybody does not have somebody that can speak boldly into that and go, hey, we believe in a God that can take what seems to be a bad morning and he can turn that. It doesn't have to be a bad day.
Right.
That's a tough truth.
Yes. Wait a second. So you mean we have to live it? I mean, yeah.
And to say that with conviction, I wasn't just saying that so that she'd maybe feel a little bit better about her morning. I was saying that with like this. No, like I need to hear this too right now.
Mm-hmm.
We serve a God that is able to take what could have been a bad day and turn this thing around. And by the end of the day, when I asked her at the end of the school day, she came to the office and we were getting ready to leave, and I was like, "How was your day?" It was better.
Sure.
Okay, that's good. That's what I wanted to hear.
And people that are listening may think, so is this a fake it till you make it? Kinda. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
And that's kind of what we addressed at the end of this point was being bold and speaking boldly doesn't mean that you're not afraid or anxious or, concerned or whatever word you want to use.
Yeah.
It just means that you believe that God is able. I thought when you were saying that, and I got my little Pentecostal encouragement there for a minute. But what I thought about is, because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's just because He lives. It's not because of these circumstances that I'm looking at. It's because He lives, and my conviction that Jesus is able is much bigger than any fear or worry or anything that I have.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, God has been taking my wife and I through several just truths from the Word mm-hmm. as we've been going through our journey of living for God, that kind of challenges that, to say, how can I say boldly and not just be saying I'm faking it, but saying, God, I'm able to
believe it.
I'm able to say this because I believe, and I'm able to say this because when I look at your Word, you have revealed to me, because we've spent time in the Word, we've spent time in the relationship that we were talking about earlier. I can say with confidence, God, you were able to do this mm-hmm. in this situation. And that situation from Scripture maybe didn't turn out like the person thought the story was going to turn out. Mm-hmm. But God, you did show up. And so I'm going to speak boldly about that. Like, what truth can I look to that I can speak? Well, if I have to pull out Scripture and say, God, maybe right now when I'm looking at my own life, I'm lacking some truth there to speak from. Let me just then speak from your Word. And typically, as you start to do that, God starts to bring some other things about and says, okay, now remember when this happened? Remember 10 years ago?
Because your boldness comes from that preparation and from that knowledge of what His Word says. It's not blind faith.
Right.
We're not saying we speak boldly of things we don't know.
Yeah.
It's we have been with Jesus and we know that His Word is true. And I sit here, recording this today, still here. Mm-hmm. And you sit here recording this today, still here. Satan hasn't taken us out. We faced plenty of hell in our lives, and yet we still sit here today with boldness saying God is still able. And that whole idea, courage, I heard somebody say that confidence doesn't come from praise. Confidence comes from competence.
Yeah.
And they were talking about youth sports. And they were talking about, if you want your child to have confidence, teach them how to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
If you want them to be confident on the baseball field, teach them how to catch a dang ball.
Right.
If they miss it every time, don't tell them you're awesome, because they're not. Right. If they can't catch the ball, teach them how to catch the ball.
Yeah.
And as they learn how to catch, the first time they catch it, they're going to look around and they're going to be on top of the world. Mm-hmm. Competence. It's the same way. Speak boldly about the things you know.
Yeah.
I know what the Word says. And so that's where we speak this boldness. We speak it with courage. And then the second thing we talked about is, it is very difficult. We live purely. We live to honor God and not to please people, which is what the Scripture said. We're going along in 1 Thessalonians 2, and at the end of verse 6, it says, we were not looking for praise from people, not from you or not from anyone else. I love the way that's said. It's talking about we were doing this for God.
Yeah.
We were trying to please Him.
Well, and the end of that even says, who tests our hearts?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I'm not living for you or for other people is because the one that's going to test my heart is God. And since we live in a knowledge of relationship, God knows our heart too. Mm-hmm. He knows so if I'm out here just trying to fake it, I'm not really living the way I'm saying I'm living and all this, the one that I can't fool in this is God. He knows. He knows my heart. He knows how much I've tried to build this relationship. He knows how much time I've taken. He knows how many times I've not done the right thing and I've done the wrong thing, and how many times I've questioned incorrectly or whatever may be the case. But it's the one that knows is God. So I have to just live purely
right
because for Him.
And it's not about living for likes, and it's really not about faking it. It is 100% knowing He is God and I want to live for Him. When we talk about purity, when we talk about living purely, that's not perfection. People get that mixed up on a regular basis. I want to live purely for God. That just means a singular focus. I want to live for Him, and that's the thing that matters. And if I please God, then, look at it this way. Go back to the marriage. If I'm living to please God and Tammy is living to please God, we're going to please each other.
Right.
That's just it. It's the way it works. My friends, if I'm living to please God, if my friends are living to please God, we're going to please each other, and we're going to complement each other, and we'll be able to do all of those things. But 2 Corinthians chapter 6 talks about we are the temple of God, and we're supposed to be separate.
Yeah.
Again, this message is not about fitting in or looking good at work. We're talking 100% about our relationship with Christ, and we speak boldly. No matter what it costs us, we live purely. It's not about all these other things. That is the idea about being a Christian.
Yeah.
But I also think that all of these are important, because if we just do one, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
If all I do is speak boldly and I don't live it out every day, I don't live purely, I'm a hypocrite. And I'm the worst hypocrite because I'm arrogant.
Right.
It's one thing to make a mistake and quietly be in a corner and mess up. It's another thing to stand out and call on God and talk about how great He is and then be a fool.
Right.
And not live for Him.
Well, or just be fake to where the things that you're posting out there, the things that you're doing are to get the like, to get the attention, to get the whatever. I just did a writing the other day that was all about how much we live in today's world for the like, and even how we are judged ourselves and how we may judge others of how much response did they get. How many thumbs up, or how many hearts, or how many comments, and what can I do that gets me that kind of response? Because I want that kind of response too. And in essence, what it does is it creates then a false sense of who someone is. They're not living purely. They're living in this one side just to get the likes and the follows and the comments. And then the people that really know them know how big of a jerk they are or whatever. And these two things don't come together. And for those individuals, people go, those people don't have any testimony. Right. Those people I don't know what they're preaching, but what they show over here doesn't always line up with what I see over here, and who I know them to be then, and what they actually say in public doesn't match up. And as humans, we have allowed the fake sense of reality on social media and that sort of thing to be what we think is true, instead of just living purely in who God created us to be, which He created us to be in community, and He created us to be in communion with others. And so to say, like, I want to live a life that shows that my body is the temple of God, that shows that, like, if I say this is who I am, then this is also who you see me over here, and it lines up. And if you come to my house and you sit on my couch and we have a conversation, I'm not going to be someone else in that setting when nobody is able to give me the thumbs up and the likes. But then as soon as they turn around and they go, well, man, you look at his feed, or the social media feed or whatever, this looks like somebody completely different. And so just trying to be who we are, that pure of, like, this is who I am.
What I should have said is live purely, no filters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't put a filter on your picture. Don't put a filter on your post. This is who you are. This is just who I am. I had somebody tell me a while back, before we go to the next one, the people that know you best are the ones who you should pay attention to what they say. And that goes both ways. That's both praise and criticism. Yeah. The people that know you best are the people you need to receive those things from. I think we talked about it the last time we recorded, the wounds of a friend. Yep. Those are the people we need to pay attention to. And if we're not living purely for God, we're going to get caught up in all the wind and waves, and it's going to be crazy. But again, I think it's important to go through all of them or not go through them, but I think it's important to live all of these things, all these challenges, or else we're not balanced, and we can't really be trusted.
Right.
Because if I'm speaking boldly but not living purely, then I'm a hypocrite.
Yep.
If I speak boldly and I live purely, the next step in our challenge is to love deeply. Don't just share the gospel, share your life. That is, man, love deeply. It's difficult. Let's just be honest.
And I think it's one of those human needs that in today's world, we have gotten ourselves into a situation where we don't know how to find belonging anymore.
No, I agree.
Because we have all of these things that separate. I was just sharing with an individual today about the difference between what I used to experience as summer break as a child and what my kids experience as summer break as a child, what your grandkids would experience as summer break as a child. When I was growing up, I mean, my mom would kick us out of the house. She laughs about this some because she's like, I don't remember it exactly like that. But we were kicked out of the house after breakfast.
Both of our parents probably just don't remember right.
They probably don't. We were kicked out of the house after breakfast. We were made to be outside. And there wasn't
community.
There wasn't cell phones. There wasn't a way for them to. You had to learn to listen for that like whistle or call or whatever to know I have to go home. A lot of times we'd come home at lunch and there would be a picnic. Like you ain't coming in the house. Now, in having kids, I understand because my mom would have never had a clean house if we would have been inside.
Right.
So part of that was because she was actually trying to have a clean house. But
she wasn't kicked back drinking sweet tea.
No. She was not. She was working, probably doing laundry because that feels like that's all I ever get done. And it was we were as a community of kids running around the neighborhoods and playing games and riding bikes, and we were constantly in community. Nowadays, kids, we've created a society now where it's almost like we're afraid of that community.
Yeah.
But the problem is our bodies, our human nature still longs for that community, that belonging. And so how do we truly just love deeply? It's to recognize the humanness of others and to realize that when I truly get to know you, here's the truth. I'm going to find out the things I also don't like about you.
Yes.
And you're going to find out things that you don't like about me. And we're going to have to decide whether we can just be able to be in community or not. And in reality, we need it. We need to be around some people that we don't agree with everything they say and everything they do. And not let that just...
And still love them.
Right. And not go, well, I'm just out here on my own, then forget all these other people. I'll just, I'll completely seclude myself from society. God created us to be in community. God created us to love deeply, and loving deeply means that I look past some of your faults and I look past some of your failures, and I see the humanity of who you are.
Well, I see you as a whole person, not what you posted last Thursday.
Correct.
I don't see your post. I see you. And as I see you, I understand better what you said or why you said it. You said this, and the world went to pieces, and they don't understand.
Yeah.
I think of, Dylan when he preached for me here in the last week or so. He was very vulnerable, and he shared a lot about his life that a lot of people didn't know. And all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, I see, man. I see what you dealt with. I see what you're dealing with." When people hear your story, and not him, it's anybody. They hear your story, and they fall in love with a person, not this weird ideological thought of this one thing is who they are. And I mean, social media creates algorithms, so we only see what we like anyway.
That's true.
We only see what we like, and when we see something we don't, it's like, ooh, we can hide that. We can delete that. We can stop following them.
And I think one of those tests, if you're sitting there going, well, I think I love deeply, and okay, so here's a check. Can you have a conversation with someone that you consider to be a friend in which there is a disagreement, and you're able to, at the end of the day, go, this doesn't mean we're not friends. This doesn't mean that when you come over and knock on my door, that my door is not going to be open for you. This doesn't mean, well, I'm never going to hang out with them again. I can recognize that you are going through what you're going through right now. And because of what you're going through, you might say some things that you maybe even don't even really believe, but you're just airing some grievances here. You're getting some stuff off your chest. There's so many times that kind of conversation starts to just destroy a relationship, and it's actually the time that we should be leaning in.
Right.
It's the time that we should be going, hey, I know you're going through some stuff right now. I know that we may not even agree on this thing that we're talking about right now, and that is okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to have the same belief system. We don't have to have the same ideas. We don't have to have the same conclusion on every problem that's coming down the pike. But we can still get past that, and we can recognize the humanness of each other and recognize that Christ died for both of us the same. He didn't die for me differently than what he died for you.
And are we willing to step into that other than, I'm praying for you?
Right.
That's our favorite get out of conversation free card.
Yeah.
Is when Kendall shares something a little bit difficult. Oh, I'm praying for you, man.
Yeah.
Get out as soon as I can. Instead of, well, let's talk it out and let me pray for you.
Yeah.
Let me pray with you. Following up the statement that I made in this particular point was, it's just easier to not be bothered than to step into somebody's pain.
Yep.
And to see what they're dealing with and what they're experiencing. And that's kind of what you were talking about. If we don't even know our neighbor, if we can keep everybody at a distance, we can live in an alternate reality for a while.
Yep.
You know, my oldest grandson is experiencing this now. He is all about the technology, all about what he's watching, all about videos, all about playing. And his mom will tell him, turn off the TV, let's go outside.
Yeah.
We're going to be with family. You're not allowed to be isolated.
Right.
At 9 years old, you're not allowed to be isolated. And while that's not going all the way back to when you and I were growing up, that is another one of those steps. No, you don't get to do this.
Right.
We do community. We do family. We do life. And we figure it out. And I think that's kind of what, we're talking about as people, we talked about people grow cold. Their love is cold in the last days. We can't allow that to happen for us. Yep. We've got to continue to fan that flame, to love people and to really care for them.
And I think it leads into this fourth thing that you brought up in the message, was to endure faithfully then. And that's, if we're going to endure faithfully as a community, if I'm going to endure faithfully with God, then I need people that know truly who I am.
Yeah.
I need to have people that really love me because they love me.
Yep.
And we act like the social media of today has replaced the front porch of several years ago, when people actually in the community did, in walking by and see you sitting there, speak to you, and then also walk up and sit down on your front porch and have that just conversation. And there was a lot of random things that would be talked about, but it's through that we start to make a connection that then when stuff starts to happen, you want to know who's going to show up.
Sure.
You want to know who's got your back. You want to know who's going to be there to say, we can do this together.
Right.
You need a help you need a hand right now. You need somebody to help, like, get food. You need to help. Like, what is it? Let's work together. Let's be there for each other. That's part of that enduring faithfully. And in our relationship with God, it's making that decision of saying, no, as you said, I'm going to make it to heaven.
I'm not giving up. Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get there.
Yep.
Hopefully it's later than sooner, but it might be sooner.
Right. But that's where I'm going to end up.
Right.
That's where the end goal is. Enduring faithfully. We can talk about this individually, but also looking at it: speak boldly, live purely, love deeply, endure faithfully. We've got to do it all. And endure faithfully is that long-term test, in my opinion. Endure faithfully is after a while, are you still here?
Yeah.
After a trial, are you still here? After you've been persecuted, made fun of, kind of ostracized because of the other things you've done, are you still here?
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole idea of endure faithfully is standing firm in your faith, standing firm in God. 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, it says, brothers and sisters, in all our distress and persecution, we were encouraged about you because of your faith, for now we really live since you are standing firm in the faith.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is your faithfulness encouraged us.
Mm-hmm.
And there, so that comes full circle back to, I'm going to go to heaven. Who's going with me?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to heaven. Who am I taking with me? I am notorious for, being with somebody who doesn't know Jesus that makes a comment about me. I remember one particular person, and he said, man, I wish I could have the attitude you do. And I remember looking at him going, you can.
Yeah.
And he knew, this is what was so cool about it. He knew what I meant.
Yeah.
He knew where it came from. And I walked away from that asking God to take me down a notch because I was pretty excited because I realized he knew what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was about to drop Jesus on him.
Yeah.
And that tells me that he knew where my joy came from. He knew where the attitude came from. And it's because he's known me for 20 plus years and he's seen every aspect of my life. And yet he's like, yeah, he's a real deal.
Yeah.
He loves Jesus. So I'm still believing he's 69, 70 years old. I'm still believing he's going to go to heaven.
Yeah.
If he dies today, unless something happens, he won't. But I'm believing he's going to go to heaven. And I'm also believing, and this is the whole idea, I want everybody listening to go to heaven.
Yeah.
I want you to have that faith and confidence and joy and peace and all those things. But I want you to have it because I want you to have the confidence to live it in front of people so they can go too.
Yep.
It's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's about every person that we connect with. And so we have to be consistent. We have to live for Jesus. We've got to do it. We got to make it.
Right. Well, and I think when you look at that idea that you put out there of standing firm, too often in life we want to act, and the Bible even tells us when you've done all,
that's it.
Stand.
Yep.
That's the Ephesians 6 on the armor of God, of put on the whole armor of God, and then a big part of that is to now just stand firm.
Yes.
Like stand and let God now be God, and stand and show others that you can stand.
Yep. You
can make it. You can do this. And we miss that, I think, so often when we're reading even the stories of the Old Testament. You could read who we call the heroes of the faith, mm-hmm. and that sort of thing. And we look at what they were doing and we say, I want to be able to do this and this and this and this and this.
Right.
And we forget the circumstance that they were in, and they were just standing for God.
Right.
Last week, Kelsey and I talked a little bit about Daniel and the 3 Hebrew children in the fiery furnace. We could talk about Daniel in the lion's den as well. And here, these guys found themselves in a foreign situation. They found themselves in a situation that was not good for their bodies, their survival, and what did
it was
they
actual
do?
Persecution.
It was actual persecution, not what we would call persecution in for most people listening to this, what we live in today. And they were able to just stand firm. And because of that, mm-hmm. God was able to then show up in such a powerful way that in both cases, with the 3 that got thrown in the fiery furnace, they came out, and what happened? Everything changed.
Yep.
For a period of time. Mm-hmm. Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den. There's another guy now. Daniel gets thrown in the lion's den. He comes out. What happens? Everything starts to change.
Yeah.
As you were saying, them standing firm caused mm-hmm. other people to all of a sudden come to a knowledge of there's something different than
Sure.
what I thought.
Sure.
There's another way. There's another avenue here that we could do. And so that's what enduring faithfully is, not just saying, okay, let me show you, let me tell you, sometimes it's just standing and saying, God is able somehow here. And if nothing else, he's going to show up and help me get through this.
I don't know of any, and I'm going to use a country saying, I believe. I don't really know. I don't know of many flashes in the pan that really make a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that just kind of blows up for a few minutes and disappears that truly makes a difference for the kingdom of God. It's going to be those people that have an investment, not just of time, an investment of their life in this thing we call faith, in this journey. And so that's, as we're talking about it, that's kind of the question for people is where do you measure up? Mm-hmm. Speak boldly. We go through the whole thing, live purely, love deeply, endure faithfully. Where do you measure up? Where do you need to step up?
Yeah.
Because they're all important. Don't neglect any of them.
Right.
It's difficult to love people. Well, chances are, I know that I am too. I'm constantly telling my wife I'm a big deal, and she just says I'm a lot. She said, those are two different things. And so, I know it takes a lot to love me, but, are we sowing that into people so that they can go to heaven?
And I think we've been looking at 1 Thessalonians really through this whole discussion. And in 1 Thessalonians 3, it says, may the Lord make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else. May he strengthen your hearts so that you will be blameless and holy in the presence of our God. That's everything that we're talking about today.
It is.
Help me to be that. To say, I loved more today than I was able to love yesterday. Mm-hmm. God, you've increased my ability. That overflow for each other. I mean, how many times we've mentioned that? How many times did we not overflow for? We don't live in the moment with someone? We don't actually appreciate what they have, what they're going through, who they are. Overflow for each other and for everyone else, that he may strengthen your heart so that you will be blameless and holy in the presence of God. What a challenge.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that is the challenge. And now we got to go out and do it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Living Out 180. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share it with someone so they can enjoy it too. Learn more or join us at 180churchtn.com. We hope you have a wonderful day.